Okay guys, so what we had done first today in class was to create a very basic memo using Microsoft Word. So I have it pinned to the taskbar. We would have done this in week 1, but if you don't have Microsoft Word down here, if we come over to our Windows search and we type in Word, we should see it pop up here, or else it could be underneath our apps as well in case it's not there. So when you see Word, left click and it should open up and you'll get a screen similar to this. And then we're going to click on a blank document. So the very first thing that we created was a memo, and I had used this as an exercise in playing around with a few of the fonts. So we know that up here is what's referred to as our ribbon, okay, and that's going to be our navigation for a lot of the tools that we need to I suppose use Word a bit more effectively. So in the case of a memo, I just typed in the word memo. I then went and did to, from, date, and subject. Okay. And if you don't know how to put in the likes of colons and stuff like that, it is usually the shift button, which is the arrow going upwards and below the caps lock key. So if you press that, your colons will come in there. So once we had that done in class, I then asked the guys to begin formatting it a little bit. And one of the things we wanted to do was to move the memo into the center of the page and to make it a little bit larger. So in order to do that, we need to left click and highlight the word. And once we have that highlighted, if we go up to our ribbon at the top here, you'll see underneath paragraph the option to put that word in the center of the page by clicking the middle one, the right hand side of the page by clicking the third one, or again back to the center. Okay, so I wanted to put it into the middle, so I've centered that, and now I want to make it bigger, but I know that I can make it bigger using these here, but my issue is I don't know what size I want it to be. And probably the easiest way of starting this process is if we have it highlighted. If we look at this A up and A down symbol, we can increase the font size incrementally. So rather than having to guess what it is, we can just keep pressing this button until we find the size that we're happy with. And it's going up here in increments of 2. So I keep going. I'm like, I might actually be happy with 20 here. So that was the first exercise that we had done in class. We then went to populate out our memo a little bit. So I had to all staff from Breffney Connaty. We have the date. I'm just going to say, I know this isn't the time I'm recording, but actually, so we use today's date. So we've got the 11th of the 11th, 2022. Oopsie daisy. So again, for those of you that make an error like I've just done there, it's a good exercise. If we go back up to the top, we have an undo button. So there's a few mistakes after coming in here for me. So I'm going to click undo. And that will bring me back to the point where I have the 11 in here. So I'm hoping that I'm going to go the 11th of the 11th, 2022. And then the subject is going to be fire drill. Now you know who you are when you see me talking about this, but I'm going to put up my message. To all staff, after the recent incident with a toaster, actually I'll leave that as an option. Okay, so we're going to fix that in the canteen. Please note a fire drill will take place on Monday the 14th at 12:30. Please ensure you leave the building immediately. Guards. When that line comes up there, we hit backspace and then we can just continue as it is. So that line is going to be shift, which is the arrow going upwards underneath the cap locks key, and then the underline, which is beside 0. So that's how we got that line. So there's a couple of things in this. So this is where we had gotten to in class, and I used this. I'd asked all the students to follow this, and we then began to format it a little bit. So I had asked everybody to highlight the words that we wanted to put in bold. So again, left click and drag over the word, and then click B to put it into bold. So I did this for all of the words that I wanted to. And then for this date in the middle of it, I wanted to really emphasize that. So I highlighted that. I put it in bold, so I've got a separate ribbon. I have a ribbon up here, and then I have a ribbon down here for these words. So I can use that one just because it's easier. And I can press left click on bold, and then left click on the U, which is to underline it. And that showed us that kind of key date in there. Now, you'll see here that the word I actually wanted to put in here was toaster. So Word has detected that there's a spelling in here that's either incorrect or it's a word that they've never heard of. And in some cases, it can give us suggestions of what they think that word would be. And in order to find that, if you right click on that word, it might give you options. So it thinks that I'm trying to say potato, which in this case we know I'm not, top 8 or toupate. So when we see that, let's try and fix it and make it a little bit easier. So I'm going to try and misspell it again. So I'm going to say toast-er. Okay? And you can see now that it's still incorrect. But we might not know how to spell the word. And don't be afraid because Microsoft will help you out. But there's a good chance if I right click on that now, you'll see there that the correct spelling for toaster has come up. So I left click on that and it will fix it for me. So now to all staff, after the recent incident with a toaster in the canteen, please note a fire drill will take place on Monday the 14th at 12:30. Please ensure you leave the building immediately. So now our memo is looking really good. We have our structure in there. What we can then do is, if we need to, we can change the font to maybe suit our needs a little bit more. And what the exercise we done in class was, we may not be in a position to print this off, but we want our signature to look a little bit more fancy. So again, if we highlight the name, you'll see then here and up here is the option to change the font. So when I left click on that, all these options will come up. And if you keep an eye on my name, you can see as I scroll through these, they begin to change. And I end up just looking for one that I think would suit me. And in the case, I liked Bradley. So I'm going to type in BR, and you'll see that Bradley has come up here. And I just hit enter. And now my signature has changed to kind of something that would maybe replicate more of a hand signature. And what I'd finally ask you to do is to highlight that, and we'll put that in italic. And we might make it a little bit bigger to replicate a signature. So once you have that exercise done, what you then need to do is to save it. So again, we go up here to File, Save As. In your case here, it'll be a little bit simpler, but we go into your documents. And in your documents, we're going to look for our Explore folder. So in fact, if I go to more options, you'll see here I have my Explore folder where you guys would have it. Left click on that, and I'm going to call it Explore Memo Test. Okay, so we now have that file saved, and then we're done and dusted. So we can play around with this as much as we want. Again, you'll probably see from up here there's a few options to change the color of the words if we want. Okay, so I might want to put that memo in red if I think that suits. But they're just little things I'd suggest you play around with. But it was our basic start for using a Word document. Thank you.